Hey guys, Nestle here and throwback from a YouTube video. Today we're going to be taking every JoJo character, or at least every notable JoJo character, and finding versus matchups for them, so I never run out of ideas. If you enjoy this video, make sure to dislike and subscribe. This is a little bit different to what I usually do. I'll also provide the connections that the characters have as well. Not all of these matchups will be good because, some of these characters are very minor and have very little to work with. There's also the fact that I have no idea how long this video is going to be. Maybe it'll be like 7 hours long. Maybe it'll be like 10 minutes. Maybe I'll split up into different parts. I still don't really know at this point. The only rule is I'm not allowed to use any character twice. Well, there is like a minor exception, but it's very minor. It's technically a different character, so it's okay. And also, I cannot use any characters I have used in videos. For example, I made Lisa versus Mikasa Ackerman a while ago. I cannot use Mikasa Ackerman for Lisa here. And yeah, I'll call out as I go along and things like that. And let's just get right into the video. Jonathan Joestar versus Tanjiro Kamado from Demon Slayer. They're both male main anime protagonists who got their life screwed over by a demon/vampire, essentially two monsters that can regenerate, and they both set out to kill them all using breathing powers. Also note that Demon Slayer matchups will be quite prevalent throughout this video. There are just a lot of similarities between these two series. Dio Brando versus Voldemort from Harry Potter, two main British villains who have large armies. Both of them killed the main character's family in order to maintain or get their superiority. Both ended up trying to kill the main character at this point before they had powers and only, failed, so that the main characters could return to fight them again. Speedwagon versus Sokka from Avatar The Last Airbender. They're two very loved characters in their respective fandoms who fight alongside the main hero despite not having any powers. Will Zeppeli versus Giyu from Demon Slayer. Two teachers use breathing powers to kill monsters and, mentor the main character. So, all the matchup similarities that Jonathan Joestar and Tanjiro have. Dyer versus Yoroshi, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, from Demon Slayer. Two people with breathing powers to kill undead monsters and were highly respected and considered very powerful in their own verse. Also, someone really close to them became one of the monsters. Jack the Ripper versus Jack the Ripper from Assassin's Creed. They're both called Jack the Ripper. Tarkus versus Black Iron Tarkus from Dark Souls. Both names are Tarkus and they're both grey monsters. Bruford versus Alexander Anderson from Hellsing. Two noble swordsmen who were once human but turned into monsters and ended up fighting the main character as a result. Ton Petty versus Sakonji from Demon Slayer. Two old mentors who mentored the mentors who mentored the main character. How many times do I have to say mentors for it to make sense? Straight Soul versus Kokushibo from Demon Slayer. Two very powerful breathing power users who kill monsters, however ended up becoming monsters themselves. Joseph Joestar versus Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat. What else needs to be said? This is the best matchup of all time. Caesar Zeppeli versus Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter. Two blonde male characters who were first arseholes to the main character. Look, Caesar Zeppeli's best matchups against Ken Masters, and I can't use that, so there you go. Lisa versus Biscuit Kruger from Hunter x Hunter. Two mentors who train the two main characters to train against three other beings. Also, they look much younger than they actually are. Rudolf von Stroheim versus Jeremiah Gottwald from Code Greass. They're both cyborg soldiers of fascist empires. Both have distinctly covering, pieces of their eyes. They're both incredibly loyal and honor-bound despite, the evil empire that they serve. Both end up being cool and nice people, and both end up becoming a close ally of the main, character. Santana versus Melora from Five Nights at Freddy's. Two members of a group of four. You meet them at first and they seem really intimidating, but they're dealt with quite easily. I did not have a matchup for Santana, please help. Wami versus Akaza from Demon Slayer. Two monsters that regenerate and have a strict fighting martial arts code and regarded two of the most powerful of their respected race. AC/DC versus Scarlet from Mortal Kombat. Two villains who can manipulate parts of their body to fight. For AC/DC it's his bones and for Scarlet it's her blood. Cars versus Nero Chaos from... Okay, I'm not pronouncing that. Two immortal vampire-like beings who are perfect life forms. Cars' best matchup is Mero M. Can't use that. Moving on. Jotaro Kujo versus Aoi Todo. Again, don't know if I'm saying that right. From Jujutsu Kaisen. Two delinquents with supernatural powers and frightening levels of strength, and the ability to get into a different place in an instant with Jotaro's time stop and Todo's boogie woogie. Despite being delinquents, they are both into unfitting things, like marine biology and pop idols, and both have a knack for fighting their opponents and have a distinct, mark on them. Jotaro's star birthmark and Todo's eye scar. Old Joseph Joestar versus Old Man Logan from Marvel Comics. Two heroes are far past their prime but still fighting. Mohammed Avdol versus Molten Man from Marvel Comics, They Use Fire. Noyari Kakyoin versus Pyara Nikos from Ruby. Red-headed main friends of the main character who met their fate in a Season 3 duel to the finish. Jean-Pierre Polnareff versus Nobara Kurosaki from Jujutsu Kaisen. Two main characters who tend to focus on their appearance in a lot of cases, and also have supernatural abilities with the intent to use them as a way of avenging / honouring someone close to them. Iggy versus Cosmo from Marvel Comics, they're both dogs. Tower of Grey versus Pinsir for Pokemon, they look similar. Imposter Captain Tenio versus Imposter from Among Us. This is a good matchup, fuck you. Forever versus Gorilla Grodd from DC Comics, they're both gorillas. Rubber Soul versus Venom from Marvel Comics. They just kind of, Rubber Soul acts like a symbiote, so let's be honest. Jay Gale versus Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. Two psychopathic serial killers with dysfunction is in their hands. Hall Horse versus Rip Van Winkle from Hellsing. Two henchmen of the main villains who are expert with guns and can redirect bullets after firing them. ZZ versus Lightning McQueen from Cars. Kachow. Enya the Hag versus SCP-1294 from the SCP Foundation. To be honest, I don't know the connections. I just saw this online because I was really desperate for trying to find an Enya the Hag, battle. Steely Dan versus Starly from Pokemon. I'm not gonna lie, I just associate Starly with the move Endeavour, which is literally just Steely Dan's ability. Manish Boy versus Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street. They'll kill you in your sleep. Middler versus Ursa from Disney. They'll both kill you under the sea. Indul versus Ryo Shinozami from Mob Psycho 100. Two blind henchmen of the main villains who are the most powerful of their henchmen despite the fact that they are blind. Maria versus Enchantress from DC. Magnetism or something. Alessi versus Ahsoka Moro from Hunter x Hunter. They're both pedos who get beat up by children. Pet Shop versus Spearow from Pokemon. Two aggressive, territorial brown birds. Vanilla Ice versus Neferpito from Hunter x Hunter. Two of the most powerful monsters and devoted henchmen of the main villains. Dio from Part 3 versus Muzan from Demon Slayer. Two main villains of their respective stories, both monsters with regenerative powers and can be killed by the sun. Both, turned from being humans into monsters and have insane charisma and are perfectionists. They can control the minds of the monsters that they control and eat humans, and are heavily linked to the main character through murdering their family. Okay, for Josuke, there are three matchups that I really like for him, so I'm just going to go through them briefly. He's got Metal Bat from One Punch Man. They both have pompadours and get, the more powerful, the angry they get. There's also Knuckle Bind from Hunter x Hunter, who also has a pompadour and is basically just got the same personality as Josuke, but the matchup I'm going to go with here is Josuke Kashikata versus Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. Two main male anime protagonists who have bizarre powers and a bad relationship with their parents, or at least their dads. They're also super sensitive about something about their appearance. With Josuke it's his hair, Edward is his height. Koichi Hirose versus Ochako Uraka from My Hero Academia. Two major characters who can manipulate the weight of things. Okuyasu Nijimura versus Kazuma from Yu Yu Kasho. Two major main characters who can erase things and are thugs. Rohan Kishibe versus Light Yagami from Death Note. Two anime characters considered to be OP through their power of just writing things down. Anjiro Kataguri, that guy, versus Ennard from Five Nights at Freddy's. Two killer villains who take over, people's bodies in order to destroy them from the inside. They both have no remorse for their actions and as a result suffer a terrible fate, with Katagiri, being fused into a stone for eternity and Ennard being burned alive. Akira Otoshi versus Eddie Riggs from Brutal Legends. They're rock metal fans who have powers and can play the guitar. Yoshikage Kira versus Genthru from Hunter x Hunter. Two main villains who cause explosions with whatever they touch. They're both super secretive about their identity. They're psychopaths and are blonde. Bites the dust Yoshikage Kira versus Toru Adachi from Persona. Two killers, who are trying to get a peaceful life, and yet despite that are extremely OP. Yukako versus Pam Sabera from Hunter x Hunter. Two supporting female characters who are excessively head over heels for our main character and have hair-related abilities. These two characters, whose names I can't pronounce, are both minor characters who attempt to steal things from the main character and are confronted from them as a result. Yuga from Gami versus K999 from Problem Solver Z. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Bug Eaton versus Rats from Rat Simulator. Evil, troublemaking rats are much stronger than normal rats. Giorno Giovanna versus Joker from Persona 5. They're both flamboyant main characters who break the law but are also good. Also, this is a really cool matchup. Butcherati versus Satsuki from Kill la Kill, or Kill la Kill. Both leaders of a powerful group of 4 in large prominent organisations. Remember, Bruno only led 4 before Jorno or Trish joined. All of their respective members have supernatural abilities. Neither of them had much choice in joining the organisation, due to terrible life circumstances. Both of them, had very terrible childhoods, which caused them to have steadfast beliefs, ambition, and resolve. At a very young age, their respective fathers were killed, which indirectly were caused by their future bosses. Both of them started as enemies to the protagonist, but ended up becoming allies. Halfway through their stories, they unexpectedly betray their masters after they despise said, master's corruption to evil. They both fought their bosses and suffered an embarrassing bloody defeat. Afterwards, their team priority became killing their boss. Both of them have blue, white, gold colour schemes, and Satsuki ends up having the same haircut as Bruno at the end of Kill la Kill. Also, both characters are part of a series that are quite over the top. Kill la Kill is known for sexualizing women, and JoJo's known for sexualizing men. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good, set of connections there. Guido Mista versus Jin from League of Legends. They both use guns and have connection to the number 4. Narancia versus Crocodile from Ruby. Gun. Fugo versus Weezing for Pokemon. They both, have purple toxic gas. Trishuna versus Sho Suzuki from Mob Psycho 100. Children of the main villain who's a mob boss, yet rebelled against him, joining the main characters to try and stop them. Abakio versus Connor from Detroit Become Human, former cops that kill people. Formaggio versus Mr. Compress from My Hero Academia. 2 major anime villains part of an evil team, and while they aren't physically strong, have a hacks ability that allows them to keep up. Illuso versus Mirror Master from DC Comics, they have mirror powers. Percy versus Fisherman from DC Comics, they have fisherman powers. Gacho versus Kase Bakugo from My Hero Academia. I don't really know why this matchup's popular, now I'm just realising that Getten would have been a better matchup, damn it. Nero versus Monsoon from Metal Gear, killers who manipulate metal. Shikolata versus Enmu from Demon Slayer, 2 murder-happy psychopaths that love murder a little bit too much. Seku versus Beam from Chainsaw Man, they're both loyal eccentric sidekicks with act animalistic and have the ability to swim through solid objects. Sail versus Neo from The Matrix, both characters known for stopping bullets. Squallow versus Superby Squallow from Hitman Reborn, both called Squallow. Diavolo versus Crow Lucifer from Hunter x Hunter, 2 main villains who are also mob bosses. I know Diavolo has better, but I'm using them in the video. Jolene Kujo versus Lucina from Fire Emblem, 2 main protagonists who are daughters of past main protagonists that could hold their own in the fight. Jolene Kujo's best matchup is against Spider-Gwen, this is the second best thing I could think of. Hermes Costello versus Twice from My Hero Academia, they can duplicate things, also they're technically criminals. Emporio versus Barry from Pokemon, 2 blonde major supporting characters who end up joining the hero and trying to stop the universe being reset. Foo Fighters versus Power from Chainsaw Man, supernatural beings that took the corpse of a former human woman, both having liquid related abilities, going, to be able to manipulate the liquid and be able to heal themselves by consuming it. Both of them don't really have that much experience in life too, having their friends helping them along with that. They also both end up sacrificing themselves for their friends. Anasui versus Knife Shao from Scott Pilgrim, 2 people with ridiculous crushes on the main character. Weather Report versus Knight from My Hero Academia, they have weather powers. I know it's not the best for either of them thematically, but it's the best when it comes to what's the closest debate. Ungalo versus Misogi from Mikada Box, villains who fuck with reality or something. Thunder McQueen versus Wobbuffet from Pokemon, they transfer the damage onto you. Sports Max versus Count Dracula from Count Dracula, villains related to vampires in some way and can also create undead beings. Vivana Westwood versus Vanny from Five Nights at Freddy's, they're security guards or psychopathic killers, but only after meeting the main villain. Enrico Pucci versus Momoshiki from Boruto, worshippers of past villains who viewed them as gods and were defeated by someone close to them. They would end up fighting their children, and both have white in the name and have, a plan related to the villain of their past. Both have overpowered villains and somewhat succeed in their plans and have religious themes to them. Johnny Joestar versus Victor Belmont from Castlevania, the 7th incarnations of the respective bloodlines of the, our long-going series. Gyro Zeppeli versus Santoro Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, 2 mentor figures to the main character who have the power of infinite. Hot Pants versus Akimo Toga from My Hero Academia, 2 major female characters who can steal people's appearance by taking either their flesh or their blood. Ringo Roadgain versus Tracer from Overwatch, they reverse time or something. Rekapiku versus Amanda Waller from DC, anti-villains use guns, I really did not have anything for this. Magnet versus Agent 47 from Hitman, they're assassins. Oyo Komura, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, versus Dara from Naruto. Terrorists involved in, a group with the antagonists, known for making bombs. Blackmore versus Venom from the Sonyverse. I don't know why I saw it in Reddit. Axel Rowe versus Kane from DC Comics. They were mortal axe users. Funny Valentine versus Senator Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Government officials who want to make America great again with their own power. Diego Brando versus Beast Boy from Teen Titans. They're transforming monsters. Alternate Diego Brando versus Loki from the MCU. They're alternate versions of pre-existing main characters or main villains. It mostly works with Loki from the spin-off series, but it kind of fits. Josuke Kashikata from Jojolion versus Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece are two Sailor Moon protagonists who got their powers from fruits. Josuke Kashikata versus Mineta from My Hero Academia. Two characters who are commonly seen as pathetic, but are both openly into the female characters. However, they're both often overshadowed by more relevant characters. Also, they have extremely stupid hair. Kijo Nijimura versus Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't know this is popular. Yoshikage Akira from Part 8 versus Overhaul from My Hero Academia. Two main anime killers, or at least manga killers, who aren't the end game villains, but still put up a massive threat and kill people by touching them. Josefumi Kujo versus Hajime Nugamo from Urutifa. I was looking for matchups for him, and Hajime just kind of it sounded similar to Josefumi Kujo's story, at least to me. Yotsuyu versus Deadshot from DC Comics. Killer villains who are sent on a task to kill the main character. Takemi Domo versus Gentle Criminal from My Hero Academia. Two main villains who can manipulate the properties of objects. Not Gentle Criminal's best, but it's okay. Hato Gashikata versus Elastigirl from The Incredibles. Two female characters who join the main character's side and can stretch parts of their body like elastic. I cannot speak today. Urban Gorilla versus Deadpool from Marvel Comics. Two assassins who are hard to kill. Dorofumi that word versus Geodude from Pokemon. They're rock animals. Wood Tomoki versus Dr. Octopus from Marvel Comics. Evil antagonist doctors. The Apex Brothers versus the twins from The Matrix. They're evil twins. Wonder Review versus Gideon Greaves from Scott Pilgrim. Villains who have been pulling the strings behind their girlfriends' lives, looking to make money off a strange phenomenon, and have the ability to manipulate the irrational. Heaven Ascension Dio versus Crimson Mask Saiyan from Super Dragon Ball Heroes. Two main anime villains who see themselves as gods and died fighting the main characters in their main timelines. Yeah, in this timeline, they win and kill the main characters and end up going across the multiverse, killing more main characters. They also originally both came from animes, however, this version of them, originated in video games and are both super OP compared to their canon counterparts. I like us more than Infinity Ultron versus Dio over Heaven. Johto Kujo from Eyes of Heaven versus Xenoverse Goku from Dragon Ball Xenoverse. They're both super OP video game versions of their very popular anime protagonists. Cars from Jojolion versus Fused Zamasu from Dragon Ball Super. They are perfect immortal beings brought back from the point of no return. Dio Brando from Jojolion versus Omega Flowery from Undertale, main villains who seeked a greater power in the story and eventually ended up getting it. However, after injecting it into them, it resulted in their downfall. Joji Joestar versus Gwenpool from Marvel Comics, alternate version of the pre-existing heroes who are anti-heroes. Gothically Soundman versus Sandman from Marvel Comics, they both manipulate sand. And yeah, that was the video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to dislike and subscribe. Goodbye.